Here we go.
Hey, what's going on, good people? It's your pal Terry Bean coming at you, not quite live. Today, we've got a wonderful guest, a returning guest, Mr. Mario Fachini. But before we get into all the goodness that is Mario, let me say hi to my longtime pal, not quite high school sweetheart or even anything like that, but there's a great photo of us hanging out in the class looking very bored. Janet E. Johnson, where Janet? I'm stealing Mario's word, right? Today, the E's got to stand for expert. How could it stand for anything other than expert?
Very good. I like
it.
It
could stand for effect if we really wanted to get carried away, but we'll get into that. Summer's like almost over, Janet E. Johnson.
It is over. Well, I guess summer goes to the middle of September.
You're not dressed like summer's over. Let's be honest. This is taking cold shoulders to new levels.
Well, see, and actually, I felt like this was the shirt to wear with you guys.
Girl power. You got to represent, chick. I like it. Your word, Janet has a great euphemism for females. She refers to them all as gals. Gals.
Guys and gals.
Gals.
I don't even call the gals guys just because everybody's guys. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Guys, gender undetermined yet. I like that. Right.
That's good.
That's safe, right? That's safe. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about catching up and all that fun stuff. But before we get too deep into this, let's bring our guest Mario on. Let's talk a little bit about the coolness that this cat actually is. Aside from always looking super dapper and dope, Mario is a highly sought after business coach, business consultant, especially for those individuals that have a boatload of knowledge that want to figure out how to get that knowledge out in perpetuity. I don't even know if that's a word, but it is today. He helps them write books, and his systems and his processes not only help you write books, he helps you shorten the time, like from the idea to a finished product in under 55 days. Now, I've known Mario for gotta be a dozen years at this point. I've watched him interact with people. I've watched him speak. I've watched him put out five of his own books. And his new one, the Expert Authority Publishing Method, is available for your learning pleasure right now. Mario, how the heck are you, bud?
I am feeling great. And with the introduction like that, how could I be feeling bad? Janet, Terry, it's good to see you both. I'm excited to share with your audience.
Good to have you on. Again.
Yeah, again. And you and I have both been on Mario's show, the Expert Authority Effect, right? So Mario's been doing his own podcast. So let's talk a little bit about your show and what that's about. Let's talk about this book that you've got coming out. And let's talk a little bit about the passion that drives you to help others put their passion into the universe. And I don't care which one you want to jump off at, Mario, but take your pick. Let's go.
I want to start with serving the people because it's always what's been on my heart and at my core with everything I've done ever since we got connected. Over in the last not in this last decade, but over a decade ago. Terry and I, for anyone listening, we're both in Detroit, Michigan, and we know each other in real life. I know that's a crazy thing nowadays in person, but I remember seeing Terry speak at events, and I remember his book, and I was just like, wow, this guy's sharp. And I was just telling him about his shirts and everything, and the brand and the personality and the style that you have, it's all reflected. And one of my core values is being heart-centric and servant leadership, always adding value first. So I started smirking when you said, let's talk about your show. And I'm thinking they're all the same. Whether it's the book, my training, we're talking in person, I'm speaking to your audience, whether it's virtually or in person, my new book, The Expert Authority Effect Publishing Method, literally chapter 1 is purpose. If you don't have the heart, if you don't have a purpose, and I get kind of snarky in it because, well, that's me and I like to have fun with that. But there's so many people that are like, chapter 1, you need a book. It's need to be 24 pages. It's need to be 6x9. You can Google the details, but if you don't have the context for why you're doing what you're doing to push through. And it's surreal because I went back to early episodes when I was looking through the book and different things too. And it's like, I had a vision for what I want to do with the show, what I want to do with publishing. I decided I'm going to double down on what's already working and what I love, because I've been doing this nearly a decade. And guess what? I'll be doing it for the next decade. I have all this mapped out past the next decade, I'll say. So I was like, what do I want the next decade to look like? And when I got down to it, I was like, I'm going to be doing a lot of what I've already been doing because I really, truly do love it. And the transformations I've been able to give people and help them through with their business in different areas of their life. It's just been, it's so rewarding. So that's what I'm doing. Is the show is an extension of the Expert Authority Effect brand. The new book is an extension of what's already been working. And now I can literally put it in someone's hands instead of saying there's a high barrier to entry and you have to apply because not everyone makes the cut. I do want to serve, but I'm still keeping the standard high for concierge service.
I heard a semi-famous man say recently, if I don't love it, I don't like it. It was very recent, in fact, maybe 9 minutes ago. and so I love the fact that you're heart-centered and you put your own desires kind of at the forefront of what you're trying to do. And that maps really well when your desires are serving others who are heart-centered. It makes it really easy when your alignment is so straight, man. So I really appreciate that. Janet, you were on his show. What was it, 6 months ago? Was it last year? It seemed
Probably a year ago.
the last 18 months were like what, 4 weeks? I don't know.
I know.
How long did that last? I can't tell.
It was seriously, yeah. It was before pre-COVID, I believe. So yeah, it's been a while.
Oh my gosh.
Definitely been a while, but yeah, but he's great. Now, Mario, how long has your show been out then?
Well, that's the surreal thing you guys are touching on. I remember launching it and I'm thinking of back of all the behind the scenes and what was going through my mind. And I appreciate the kudos and all of that, but I'm just like, the show's live. We're good. I'm over 300 some episodes now. And by the time you're listening to this, it's probably over 400, 500, because there's some that are unreleased right now. And it's surreal because I remember just, again, like the book, I always advise everyone taking it one bit at a time, take it one chapter at a time, you know? So I took it one chapter at a time with the show. I decided to launch. I decided I'm going to commit to this. And I go, let me get my first 10, let me get my first 20, let me get my first 50, 100. And now it's into the hundreds. And Terry, appreciate the compliment earlier, my 5th book. I wasn't trying to write 5 books day one. I go, I couldn't even wrap my head around the first one, truthfully. But once I got through that, I go, maybe there is something here, because my strength was never English in the past or school. So getting through one was just an accomplishment in itself. But afterwards I was like, hey, I'm alive. You know what I mean? It's like, we have all these fears in our head, but once you go through them, it's like, And now I've actually become a good writer because I've done it so much. And same thing with hosting the show and interviewing people. I'm not like, I remember some of the first episodes, Terry, I think for yours, I literally had the questions mounted up on the monitor on a sheet of paper. And I kept like glancing over, and there's episodes, I left the rustling in there. I'm like, that's just funny. Now it's all in my head and I can just, do it quickly. So it's just practicing.
Single digit on your show, right? If I'm not mistaken, I recalled like 6 or 7.
Yeah, you were in the first 10, and I appreciated it because I really truly made a list of all the people I wanted as the top 100 episodes, because I never started it going, I want to get to 5 or 10 and we'll see what happens. I'm like, you'd have to be dumber than a rock to think doing something a few times you're going to get the result. I had a goal to blow past 100. So I was like, who do I want for that? And you were definitely at the top of the list, and that's why you were in the top 10. And it was surreal because literally I remember seeing you, hearing you, your audience, your everything. I was like, wow, this guy's incredible. I would love to be able to just speak to an audience this size, of this caliber, and be like him. And I'm so glad it's a decade later, and we're still friends, and we're both doing well and everything. But you were in the top 10, and I was like, I'm gonna ask you first, so thanks for saying yes.
Thanks for making it easy to say yes to, Mario. That's
It's
the
always nice
benefit of you.
to interview a podcaster, because then it is and it isn't. I guess there's pluses and minuses to it, because some are such pros, with it, and then others are, where they're going to be flexible with you, you know what I mean? So they'll work with you on it. But honestly, I'd rather interview somebody that has had a podcast, because they know like to pause. Terry, for instance, we've had many that don't have a clue how to be on a podcast, and they could talk for an hour. We don't say one word. So, Mario, I think you probably know what I'm talking about.
I do my darndest to limit that, but yes, it may have happened a few times.
So let's go to some advice so podcasting and books. And I think you probably see a big overlap, I'm guessing. People that have a podcast and want to publish a book, or have a book and then want to start a podcast. I'm guessing you probably see a lot of that. So what's your advice for somebody that maybe has one and wants to do the other, or maybe they want to get started with both? What's your advice to somebody starting out? Oh boy, you're cracking your neck for that one.
So this might be a little controversial, and don't hate me for it, but I have always sided with the publishing. And I've thought about this long and hard, because I've helped so many people with the publishing, with podcasting, and with video, all of which are good. And with the author speaker realm, not just the podcast, but if you're a speaker and don't have a book, you're kind of missing out. And I know other people, conversely, who have done a ton of books, but they don't like speaking. I'm like, what? I think it's so ingrained, but they really are two different things. It's just, you're leveraging I see it as leveraging your time. Okay. If you have something good to say, you should want to get it. You should have the heart, again, the purpose, chapter 1, as to going, well, I want to help 1 million people. You know what I mean? You shouldn't want to keep it all nuzzled up. Same thing with the video. Well, I don't know if I could make 10 little short videos. It literally could take 10 minutes. But if you don't have the heart to serve, all of this is going to be difficult. But I've thought about it, and my final answer is still publishing. Here's why. I'm still working on my show. I have 300 and 400, 500 plus episodes. I'm still working on it. It's way more work than the book was and is, any of them. The video, it's the same thing. You could say, well, I want to do 10 or 20 videos, and that's all well and good. However, what do you do to get to 100 videos? What do you do to get to 200? Yeah, it's this arsenal and this asset that you can be sharing, but it's not like a book. Once the book is done, the book is pretty done. You're not going to go to print. You're not going to invest into the promotion. You're not going to invest in speaking. There's a lot more that goes into a book that makes it finite. With podcasting and video, and I'll throw in website, you could screw the whole thing up, erase it today, redo it tomorrow. There's something about the book process, and the way I teach it with my publishing method, you can do it shorter, faster, quicker, and more profitably, and it's good. And now it's just a matter of getting it in people's hands. And you can hit print digitally, physically, hand it out 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 times. If I want 1,000 episodes or 10,000 episodes, I need to produce that number of episodes. And I would consider a book, if you pulled off 20 to 50, depending on what level you're doing at, if you jump onto video, live streaming and all that, you could probably do 20 to 50 episodes for a podcast and be done and leverage it to the equivalent of 1,000. So book is my ultimate medium. However, there's most of my clients, I suggest, let's do the book first so it's done. Then we can talk about the show and the video and the other stuff, because that's more of a ongoing nature, but you combine them, it's pretty much untouchable synergy.
So I have a question for you. Somebody like
Please.
myself who is in the social media space that changes
Mhm.
every single day. It's part of the reason I've never written a book, because there's no evergreen. With you run Facebook ads, that changes every single day. I mean, by the time that thing published, it'd be outdated. So what's your advice for somebody that doesn't have the evergreen content? I mean, or you
I
can
think
figure it out,
everyone
but-
does. It's just a matter of how you position it. My very first book, Video Marketing for Business Owners, it deals a lot with YouTube and video. You know why it's video marketing for business owners and not YouTube for business owners?
Mhm.
Because you could do a book on paid ads and not have it be centered around Facebook and not have to deal with all the updates. There's a lot of value you could have just in why you should do paid ads, how you do paid ads, things to consider in paid ads. For example, what's the most important thing, the image or the headline? How many images should you use? Should you have the rotating carousel or a single image, maybe a video image? How do you track the conversions? What about the pixels? How do you get people onto the list, keep them there, and then nurture the lead sequence? I never said Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and they all have a paid component to them.
Got it.
Well, and I think the point here is the tactics are probably very, very similar, even though the tools change, right? Or how you use the tool. So if you look at it at the strategic level, right, and what you're going to do and how and why, I think that's the way to do it without the how being so granular that you get into the nitty gritty of the actual how. Right. So I think that point is really spot on. Mario, I'm going to shift gears on you because I have a very strong memory of several years back when you were writing. It was probably book 2 or 3, and you wrote it over Thanksgiving weekend.
Yep, I talk about that in the book too. Yeah, 5 days. I started on Wednesday night, had it to the printer on Monday.
Walk us through that. What did that look like? What was the outcome? What was that book about? And how were you able to put something together that what most people would say that take me 6 months? It took you 5 days.
I even joke about it in this one because not do I joke about that book, but I say this book is the one that took me the longest because I put in like 13 days or something. I was like, I took my time. So I'm a big believer in the time leveraging, in staying in your expert authority effect zone. And if I were to talk to you, Terry, Janet, you, like we kind of already started with the Facebook ads, I have no doubt we could flesh out a book like here live, because almost every single one of my author clients, and I even share a story about one of my, another publisher friend of mine, Jen, we were speaking at a live event years ago in person. I got to keep saying in person because live has a whole new meaning now. An in-person event, and from getting off stage and going to the after party and walking from one end of the hotel to the other, we flushed it out. She had been struggling with it. And same thing with different clients of mine, that if you just breathe and go, okay, what do I want to write on? Let's say Facebook ads. No, paid advertising. Forget the F word.
I like that.
Paid advertising. Well, what do I want to share? Well, why is it important for your business? What are the benefits of it? What's the first thing to consider? Why someone should be doing it? What should you be allocating for the budget? What are the benefits of it? The ROI, who should be focused on it first? What businesses it's applicable to, and what it's going to ultimately do to your business over the first 6 to 12 months. None of that was scripted. I just came up with it on the fly based on what I know about it. But you just lay out this framework, and I teach that in the book, like make 10 bullet points, make 15, 20, just flesh it out with some ideas. And the beauty of you being the expert, Janet, and Terry, if I were to say, give me 10 more, I'll go easy, but Janet, give me 3 more. What's something I didn't cover that everyone should know about that you feel is important?
Oh, you want me to do that now?
Yes.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And I hope you took notes on the last one.
I didn't take any notes, sorry.
What are
So
a couple points that you always talk about that you already have in presentations, you've probably shared on social, that are in LinkedIn post?
right now,
There's
one would be for all across the board, iOS 14. I would still talk about that because iOS 14 is
Okay.
affecting a lot of things. Another one, just using video,
There you go. And the third?
creatives. I mean, just making it easy.
So you know why
creatives
you
do-
did, that quick?
Hmm.
Because I set the bar of saying, hey, give me 3 right now. If I gave you a pen and paper and said, okay, give me this by 5 o'clock today, you would take all day to do it.
True. Hmm.
And so there's things I incorporate. And to your point, Terry, of publishing over Thanksgiving, and I did not work on Thanksgiving, and I was very present with family and friends that weekend. It was probably only 3.5 days, but I was like, if you know what I mean, if someone's not impressed with 5, I don't think 3.5 is going to be the differentiator. I did it actually very casually. I just did a chapter and a half or 2, here and there whenever I just felt like it. There wasn't like, okay, it's 6 o'clock, I need to write. There's some days I did it first thing when I woke up. There's other days I just literally stopped what I was doing because something hit me. And other times it was at night. I mean, it was just like, I, again, laid out that framework and just kind of filled it in. It's like a puzzle to me. What do I want to write about? Here's the topic. And it was about the expert authority effect. I fleshed out the 10, 20 bullet points, erased the ones I didn't like, refined the ones, and then just filled in the answers. I mean, literally, it's the same thing I do when I'm speaking and people go, well, I have a question about this. I have a question about that. Well, when you've done it long enough, those questions keep coming up. How long does it take to publish? What should I do for the cover design? How long should my episodes be for the show? What's the best thing to put for a headline for a Facebook ad? How to get connected with more people, Terry. So we all get the same stuff over and over. And the things that keep repeating, that's probably what you should have in the book, because that's what people want to know.
Great points. Yep. Yep. And speaking sounds like similar, because that's kind of how I do outline bullets. And then you turn it into a PowerPoint presentation. You could turn that into a book as well, I suppose.
There's nothing saying you can't take that PowerPoint and just remodel it for the book. That's how I did my second book in one day. I found every last existing thing I had on the subject, and I was like, sweet, I'm 90% done.
That's interesting. Well, and like I've done a video for every week for a year or more. I mean, I don't know. So
Have you transcribed them all?
no. Yeah, they're all, well, no, I haven't. Mm-mm.
Whether you have or haven't, it wouldn't take that much. And
Mm-mm.
it doesn't mean you need to use every last little detail, but you'd find giant bullet points at the very least in each one that would spur up your mind to go, okay, here's what I really want to say.
Yeah. Yeah. So
You
people that
never
do
have to
video
start
can
at 0. And it's
turn it
also
into a
why,
book.
yeah,
Mhm.
I stay in the business book publishing lane. I mean, if
Got
we're
it.
doing Harry Potter and it's like, okay, do we want them to go to this world or that world? It's like, yeah, you could spend 3 months thinking about it. If I were to say, why Facebook over YouTube, what's your answer?
Less expensive, more documented.
There we go. Could you give me another paragraph or 2 on that? You don't need to, but you start with the thought. That's your answer. You expand it and then add a story in there from one of your clients.
Yeah, very good.
Ooh, Janet, this topic about you writing a book
I
has
have no
come up a
time.
lot of times.
Sorry.
Come up a lot of times. I'm expecting
know.
it to
That's
happen
funny.
at some point.
Yeah, what's your answer to that one? I have no time.
Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. You just think it's going to take more effort than you're willing to give right now, and it may not be a high priority. However, I do believe you are seeing that it's not as difficult as you think it may be.
Yeah. No.
Well,
Yep.
and to Mario's point, with all the videos you've already done, the book is already done. You just have to stitch it together at this point.
That's what VAs are for.
I was just going to say another
Hallelujah.
thing I advise people to do in the planning process is have your team go on a treasure hunt and pull out all your good stuff. I'm not going to tell you to spend a week or two looking all this up, but if you were to say, I'll give you a bonus if you can find all the stuff we've done over the years and put it together in an outline for this new thing I'm working on. It might be a book, webinar, training, curriculum, course, and all kinds of stuff, because it's going to be very similar. It's just how you share it. Maybe you don't write 58 stories in the book, you do 1 or 2, but during the webinar or a weekly series, you have the opportunity to share more.
Very good. That's awesome.
This guy's
So
an expert
five
with his
days.
authority.
What'd you say, Terry?
I said he's an expert with this authority. I like
I get it. I get it. So break down your book for us a little bit. You mentioned chapter 1.
Purpose.
Yep. And so then what else do people learn in this book?
So no, chapter 1 is on purpose. You got to be heart-centric. You got to have that servant's heart, because there's times you're going to hit a wall, just like with anything in business. It's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know direction to go. And I literally say in the chapter, when you're thinking about writing your book, you have to identify who you're writing it for. And I said something like, thanks for making it easy for me. Who I'm writing this book for is you. It was one of the most surreal things in the world, because I'm publishing a book on business book publishing. As I'm walking you through how to publish your book, Janet, and giving examples as I'm writing the book of what I'm doing. So nearly all the chapters have like, well, here's my subtitles. Here's my thought process for the title creation, the subtitle creation. I identified who I'm writing it for. Here's the printing process. Here's that. So chapter 1 and the first step is with you need to know your purpose. You need to plan it out. That's chapter 2, plan. Chapter 3 is going through the process. And that's one of my favorite. Well, I'll say this. The positioning is something you have to take into account, because some people write books and they're just kind of there. And I'm just going to be polite with it. There's a lot of people who just have a kind of their book. The way I've always taught my clients, you have an opportunity to position yourself as an expert. In the book, out of its nature, author is the root word of authority. However, if you don't do it in a way that reflects that in everything you do, even with my show, it's not going to have that. You know what I mean? You see people, I'm sure, even in public, you've seen them on stage, because I know I've sat through the presentations. They're like, here's the leading authority on XYZ topic. And it's like, really? You got him? I need to submit next time. Or you should have called me. Tell me you've never thought that once, Terry and Janet. You don't need to name them, but I hear you both laughing and see you. So you want to position it in a way where it's congruent. You don't want to make anything up. But in chapter 2, I talk about the positioning. And then we go into the planning stage. You don't want to just throw mud against the wall in any of that. So if it's not planned out correctly, there's no point in publishing. It's just going to be just some random stuff. There's a lot of details about the publishing process that I cover in the next chapter. And then, of course, it's the publicity, how to promote it, and the philanthropy. Because
you have a lot of P's in there. Is that supposed to be?
It's the 7 P's of publishing. Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Again, it all starts with that purpose, because while I make jokes in the book, and I'll make them here and wherever, people go, well, they think this big thing, like, to do a book, you need more than 24 pages. You need it formatted properly, but it's nothing more than uploading it like an email attachment. And I joke about that, because people are like, oh, I published my book, but there's so many people I've even found from the show. I go, oh yeah, congrats on the new book. How did the launch go? And this just struck me somewhere between episodes 1 and 200. There were people saying, what do you mean launch? I'm like, what do you mean? What do I mean launch? I go, how did the launch of your book go? They go, well, we published it a month ago. I'm like, hold on. I go over to Amazon on my third screen, and I'm like, you didn't promote it? They're like, well, my coach uploaded it for me. Oh, dear God. You have this massive opportunity to launch your show, to launch your book, to launch your brand. And all you did is upload it. I'm like, I go, there's some things you could do when you're ready to relaunch it that you could take advantage of, because the whole point is to serve people. Again, if you don't have that purpose, yeah, throw something. You could have something on Amazon today. I'm confident about that, but that's not what I teach.
Got it. Got it. What do you think, out of curiosity, of the book method? Like, I'm assuming you know this, that Russell Brunson teaches to get it out there further with ads. Do you know that, the book funnel?
I'm familiar with it, and I think the ads are a good way to do it. I would say that you want to know, again, that goes back to the purpose, and I'll niche it down even more with the avatar, or for anyone who doesn't know that what that is in the marketing lingo, it would be your ideal reader, your ideal prospect. You don't want to just run ads, and correct me if I'm wrong, Janet, but would you ever run ads without identifying the audience first?
Oh, no, no.
So that's my caveat, because there's some people, they're like, I put money into ads and whatever. I'm like, who was your audience? Who were you targeting? What was your headline? Did you test it?
Oh,
They're
yeah,
like, what do you
of
mean?
course. The big thing is that they're doing it where, well, one thing about Russell Brunson, when he launches a book, he gets more out there than probably anybody else, because he does this funnel, but it's a free plus shipping method versus buying it outright. But then obviously there's sales bumps and all that kind of stuff. So he makes more money back on the advertising with the book.
It's all on the back end. And I think it's a great way to do it. There's been many books I've bought that way, just because I know they're running an ad and I want to support them and stuff. And yeah, there's usually good bonuses. I think if it's someone's first book, I would have to have a conversation with that author if it's smart for them or not, because it's a different ball game. You would want to be established. Like the guest on my show, I'd be willing to say that they're qualified. It's not that they're qualified. It's that I can't think of a better word. You don't want to do it if you only have 100 people on your list. You've never printed anything before, you have no shipping set up, and you don't have any back end. I'll say it like that.
Got it. Perfect.
You would have to have enough established where it would make sense that if you don't profit from the book or on the front end, you're going to profit on the back end. Otherwise, it's very expensive and costly.
Makes sense. Yep. You have to have
just like everything that you
proper
don't know
funnel.
what you're doing or test out.
So let's finish up with where our audience can find the book.
eapublishingmethodbook.com.
publishingmethod.com. Look at Janet and I both like, we got to repeat that.
I know. Well, you got to repeat it again because it is kind of long. So
eapublishingmethodbook.com.
Yep. So there's 4 pieces to it. EA Publishing Method Book. Okay, perfect. Like it. Love it.
That's amazing. And then how do they find you in general, Mario? Where's your favorite place to hang out online?
Honestly, eainterviews.com is my favorite place to hang out, but it's at Mario Fachini across all the socials.
That's fantastic. It's always good to have a unique enough name that you can just grab that digital real estate and own it.
Well, let me tell you this. It only took me nearly a decade to pull it off because it wasn't always available. And I'm excited that I can now say that. And I've been just letting it roll off my tongue because it wasn't always the case, but now it's at Mario Fachini across all the socials.
Really? Where did you have trouble landing some of that good property?
Some of the social outlets, one of them, Facebook, early in the day, because Facebook was around before they did the public figure business pages and ads and all that. So actually I was the problem. My own profile was at Mario Fachini, but the public figure one, I had to throw a modifier on the end of it because mine was already taken. And for a while they wouldn't let me switch it. And then I don't know how long ago it was, but one night I was working on something. I was like, I wonder if I can switch it now. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was literally like 1 a.m. I was probably like watching a movie and it just came to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can switch it. So that was one I switched. YouTube was another one. And I want to say Twitter. And it was like, as time went on, I got more and more and more. And then the last one that most recently went through was the YouTube one. And I was like, yes, I got them all. It was just
Wow.
annoying for email signatures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's way
I
easier
can't
to
get them all.
remember.
Twitter Janet_Johnson still, but I don't know. I don't use Twitter anymore, so it doesn't matter. But awesome. Okay, well, let's Terry, I'll let you finish the show out.
Oh, yay. How fun. All right. So thank you, A, for paying attention and listening and trying to figure out how to increase your expert authority. I love that. Thank you to Mario for bringing such valuable and usable information. I think the audience is really going to enjoy that. And if the audience wants to continue this conversation, their best bet is to join us on our Facebook group, Business Growth Time .xyz. If you want to enjoy any of the past 165, I feel like we're slackers now, Janet E. Johnson, 165-ish episodes, including another one with our pal Mario, you can go check us out at businessgrowthtime.com/blog or /podcast. Either one will get you there. So good times, good effort. Like seeing both of you. It was fun.
Thank you so much, Mario.
The pleasure was mine. Thank you both. It's always a pleasure.